number 2 military commander under RCMP investigation. CBC News learns new details. Former American soldier Chelsea Manning could walk free decades early, despite having leaked a trove of state secrets.
As a traitor.
Barack Obama's move stirs outrage.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
Plus, white pride busts out of the closet. You'll meet one of the cheerleaders.
America, at the end of the day, belongs to white men.
We told you last night that Canada's second highest military commander was removed from his job. Yesterday, there was no explanation given. And today, the Prime Minister would say nothing about why Vice Admiral Mark Norman was suspended either. But tonight, our Murray Brewster has learned the reason. And he's here to tell us just what happened. Murray.
Peter, ever since the bombshell announcement, official Ottawa has been seized with this story. Everyone has been trying to understand how such a popular, competent, and progressive officer can be bounced so suddenly. Vice Admiral Mark Norman and General John Vance in happier times. Last summer, Norman was sworn in as Vance's deputy, the second most powerful officer in the Canadian military.
I leave the RCN with some work still to be done.
Norman was head of the Canadian Navy, and that's where this story and the RCMP investigation are focused. Sources tell CBC News classified technical data related to the Navy's shipbuilding program was allegedly leaked. The defense industry has been engaged in a cutthroat competition to design the Navy's new frigates.
There's a lot at stake here, and because of that, people are being very actively pursuing the different bids that they're interested in.
Tens of billions of dollars are at stake. To make sure the Navy gets the ships it needs, classified data such as intelligence and threat assessments are used to prepare warship designs. But by the time companies get to see those requirements, the secret stuff is scrubbed out.
A competitor that saw the classified data would have a really good insight into what the Canadian government and what the Navy itself thinks is most needed in going forward for future warships. Information that should not be shared with unqualified people, and it could be an international incident.
The RCMP will not confirm or deny an investigation into Norman's alleged activities is underway, and that stonewalling goes all the way to the top in a government that promised openness.
Well, I really can't make a comment at all.
The Chief of Defence Staff took a decision, and this government supports General Vance in the decision that he took, and I have nothing further to say on this at this time.
If there's such allegation, you need to go to the bottom of it. It's not only for national purposes, but it's also to send to our allies and friends the certainty that we take security of classified information very seriously.
Vice Admiral Mark Norman hasn't commented, although his boss, General John Vance, issued a statement tonight saying for privacy considerations, he can't comment any further. Peter?
All right, Murray, thank you. Well, next to one of the largest leaks of classified material in U.S. history, it blew open secrets of the U.S. military and diplomatic corps and made WikiLeaks a household name. Today, Barack Obama largely commuted the 35-year prison sentence of the Army intelligence analyst who did it. Now known as Chelsea Manning, she revealed after her sentencing that she was transgender, which made her incarceration in a male military prison a serious issue. Paul Hunter has more for us from Washington. Paul.
Peter, Chelsea Manning leaked roughly 700,000 military and diplomatic documents, and for that, she got an unprecedented jail term, commuted now in one of the final acts of Barack Obama's presidency. Back at her trial, she was known as Bradley Manning, a low-level U.S. military intelligence analyst who'd served in Iraq, intent on exposing abuse of detainees in that country and so much more.
That's a weapon, yeah.
This video, part of the massive information leak to which Manning would admit, is of 2 U.S. helicopters mistakenly firing upon a group of men in Baghdad, among them journalists, their cameras mistaken for weapons. Manning called it morally indefensible. The leak is how the website WikiLeaks got famous. It, in turn, made Manning's documents public. At trial, Manning was shown to have been struggling with gender dysphoria and, after sentencing, declared herself transgender with a new name, Chelsea. But her punishment was severe. 35 years, by far the harshest ever for such crimes. To be served in Fort Leavenworth's men's prison. Twice, she's attempted suicide. Her sentence commuted. Instead of in the year 2045, she'll be released in May. Mercy, though not from all.
This guy's a traitor, and I'm disappointed.
This was grave harm to our national security, and Chelsea Manning is serving a sentence and should continue to serve that sentence.
For Obama, who leaves office Friday, it marks a fresh approach on those who leak intelligence. His administration has fiercely pursued those who leak. But does it signal a potential break for Edward Snowden, the former national security contractor who also leaked enormous amounts of U.S. intelligence, is now in hiding in Russia? Starkly different, says the White House.
Chelsea Manning is somebody who went through the military criminal justice process. Mr. Snowden fled into the arms of an adversary.
But freeing Chelsea Manning may affect the future of Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, who's under investigation in the U.S. while living in the Embassy of Ecuador in London. Last week, Assange tweeted if Manning gets clemency, he'd agree to extradition to the United States. And here we are. Peter.
All right, Paul, thank you. Reality TV star and businessman Kevin O'Leary will enter the Conservative leadership race tomorrow, the day after the French language debate. O'Leary has admitted he was waiting to enter the race because of his poor French. His 13 opponents, some of whom are also just learning French, did take on each other tonight. And our Catherine Cullen was watching in Quebec City. So, Catherine, what happened?
Well, Peter, there was definitely a dynamic that we saw emerging very early on in the evening, and that was that Maxime Bernier had a target on his back. Candidate after candidate was taking a shot at him, and that speaks very much, not necessarily to what's going on in the race as a whole, but very much to what was happening here tonight. We are in the province of Quebec. This was a French language debate. Maxime Bernier was once a cabinet minister. He's well known in Quebec, and so everybody had their sights trained on him. Where we are also very much affected what was talked about tonight. You might be surprised to hear that one of the hottest topics this evening had to do with the agricultural sector, specifically with supply management. We had loud applause, we had boos. Stephen Blaney, another well-known Quebec MP, former cabinet minister, was really defending Quebec farmers over and over tonight. A lot of time as well spent talking about security issues. A lot of the candidates calling for more funding for Canadian security agencies and talk about what to do about people who hold dual citizenship and are convicted of crimes like terrorism.
So where does all this leave us now in the race?
Well, we still have two more official debates. They're both supposed to be bilingual, and there may be some other debates organized as well. But really, the big shakeup is going to come tomorrow when Kevin O'Leary jumps into this race. Already with 13 candidates on stage, it can be hard for some folks to get a word in edgewise. Kevin O'Leary, known for being outspoken. A lot of the camps are talking behind closed doors about their concerns about how this is going to switch up the dynamics here. People are going to have to fight even harder to get themselves heard in this big race.
All right, Catherine, thanks very much. Well, add Saskatchewan to the list of provinces who've struck bilateral health deals with Ottawa. The province agreed today to nearly $350 million in targeted funding for home care and mental health. It also reached a separate agreement with the federal government over its private MRI clinics. Saskatchewan has 1 year to prove that private MRIs do not hurt the public health care system. Yesterday, the three territories inked deals joining New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland and Labrador. The federal government says it continues to work with the other provinces. Coming up,
he's trying to make this cool, this racism cool.
A former neo-Nazi sizes up America's alt-right movement. It's making waves in a country on edge.
We have to stand up and fight against it.
And the debut of our new feature, Viewpoints, designed to bring you a range of opinion. The trend of the past decades towards more open markets, freer trade, and open borders appears on a collision course with present-day politics. Protectionist voices growing louder, closing borders. Today, that came in the guise of a roadmap from the UK for how it will pull out of the European Union. A stance backed in spirit and word by the man who will become the President of the United States this Friday, who threatens to tear up trade agreements and limit immigration. Two major voices on the world stage turning inwards, even as superpower China stood at the World Economic Forum today with a vigorous defense of free trade. The CBC's Thomas Dagla begins our coverage from London.
Good morning, what's the plan?
For the British Prime Minister, the day started like any other.
Have you got a plan?
With questions about what Brexit would mean for Britain. In recent months, all she would say was this.
Brexit means Brexit.
Again and again.
Brexit means Brexit.
Today, Theresa May finally offered some clarity and the promise of a so-called hard Brexit, a clean break from the EU.
Not partial membership or anything that leaves us half in, half out.
That means leaving the European single market, the free trade zone where the UK does half its commerce. The Prime Minister is also vowing to do what Brexit supporters really wanted, taking back control of Britain's borders, lowering immigration.
Brexit must mean control of the number of people who come to Britain from Europe.
May has laid out her 12 priorities for Brexit negotiations, among them breaking free of the European Court and maintaining no border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Germany's foreign minister welcomed what he called a little more clarity, while the European Parliament's point man on Brexit talks had this warning.
We shall never accept a situation in which it is better to be outside the European Union, outside the single market, than to be a member of the European Union.
The Prime Minister, though, dreams of Britain becoming a great global trading nation with stronger ties to countries beyond Europe's shores.
I thought the UK was so smart in getting out.
Emboldened by Donald Trump's promise of a quick post-Brexit trade deal with the U.S. Canada sees promise too.
Canadian business interests and others in Canada have been asking us for kind of what we know about what the plan is. That uncertainty is a challenge for them. And what we heard today from Prime Minister May is a commitment to address that uncertainty.
May says the British Parliament will have a say in the country's future, but so will 27 other EU member states as parties to the divorce talks. So, Peter, there's no guarantee the UK will actually get what it wants.
All right, Thomas, thank you. Well, our Keith Bogue was watching all this from Washington. Keith, what's the reaction there likely to be to what Theresa May announced today?
Well, Theresa May believes that she has a friend in Donald Trump, and that might be true. Donald Trump has already said that he'd be willing to take the U.S. into negotiations quickly with a free trade agreement with the United Kingdom, and that's something the European Union wanted to do with the U.S. In fact, they tried and have not succeeded at it. If she were able to do that, if she were able to negotiate a trade deal with the United States, she could then probably claim that by leading the United Kingdom out of Brexit, all she had really done was trade one enormous trading partner for another, while at the same time protecting the United Kingdom from some of the unpopular policies and regulations of the European Union.
Well, what about Trump? Is there something in all of this for him?
You might not think so, given that a large part of his campaign was spent saying that he would rip up trade agreements. But he's actually saying that he's not opposed to trade agreements. He's only opposed to global trade agreements, the big ones with multiple countries and so on. So if he could make a trade agreement with the United Kingdom, he too could point to something that was an example of something that he had promised. And at the same time, I think it's pretty clear that Donald Trump's not a big fan of the European Union. He said, in fact, that he believes it's going to fall apart. And if by supporting Brexit, that hastens somehow the demise of the European Union, he'd probably not mind doing that too much.
All right. Keith, thanks very much. Well, as we mentioned earlier, China's president defended open trade today on the international stage. While in some way that might seem unusual, China has a lot to lose if Western countries move away from globalization. Renee Filipponi explains.
Now a modern, tech-savvy, urban world.
A big change in a few short decades for much of China. Rural and remote areas have grown into sprawling industrial hubs. It's now an economic powerhouse, courtesy the gift of globalization. So no surprise that today in Davos at the World Economic Forum, China's leader stood up to defend free trade. President Xi Jinping said pursuing protectionism is just like locking oneself in a dark room. While wind and rain may be kept outside, so are light and air. No one, he said, will emerge as a winner in a trade war.
Just by domestic consumption alone, they will not be able to consume all the things that they can produce. So they rely heavily on export as well. And obviously, United States is a very important export market for China.
China's the world's #2 economy, but its success has come at a cost to other parts of the world.
So much of what we concentrate here in the developed world around the hollowing out of the middle class really also could be characterized as a redistribution of wealth and jobs and opportunity to the developing world. I mean, China, since 1990, has lifted about 1 billion people out of poverty.
China engages in illegal export, subsidies.
But many point out that China has not been playing by the rules, flooding the world markets with cheap products while protecting its own domestic economy from competitors.
To establish a foothold in China has never been easy. It is full of bureaucracy and rules and regulation.
China isn't the only country worried about the future of free trade. Canada is also a trade-dependent nation, wondering how it will fit into a world where protectionist rhetoric seems to be gaining steam. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Toronto.
Another world leader was also looking ahead today. Vladimir Putin said he thinks Russia will be able to normalize its relationship with the U.S. once Donald Trump is sworn in.
Я с господином Трампом не знаком.
I do not know Mr. Trump. I have never met him, said President Putin. I have no reason to attack him, criticize him, or protect him. Trump has also signaled he'd like the U.S. to build a better relationship with Russia. Justin Trudeau's government has pledged to find common ground with the Trump administration, especially on trade. But Canadians in the key lumber industry are wary they haven't missed the president-elect's many promises to renegotiate, even scrap, trade deals. Now, as Chris Brown tells us, workers in British Columbia are bracing themselves for another cross-border fight and even looking to new markets.
Canadian wood will be among the first big tests of the Trump government's potentially protectionist ways. In BC lumber towns like Mackenzie, and workers such as Debbie Bridges are bracing to take a hit.
I think right now people are they're a little scared, and rightfully so.
No U.S. administration has ever made selling Canadian lumber easy, often slapping on big tariffs. Most timber in Canada is cut on public land. And the Americans argue with those cheaper costs, it's subsidized. Time and again, trade panels have sided with Canada, but that hasn't reduced the pressure to cut a deal. The fear is, with Trump in charge, the U.S. will be even less inclined to do so.
The unfortunate thing about bullies is that we're right beside them, so we're probably going to take some of the brunt of that.
So the challenge for Canada's lumber producers has been to be less dependent on the Americans, which is what Chief Derek Orr says is happening here. Does Cho, or Big Wood in the Indigenous Sakani language, is owned by the McLeod Lake First Nation, and it sells mostly to China.
We knew we couldn't compete with the larger licensees, so we found our own niche with a smaller market.
A decade ago, 90% of Canadian wood was exported to the U.S. Now just 65% goes. So there's a sense Canada's in a better position for a fight.
Times get tough, right? And it's survival of the fittest. And basically, I think we're in that realm that we should survive. And a lot of times, a lot of the little guys fall, but I think we're pretty good.
I think we're in a better position now. I think Mackenzie has shown its resilience over the years. You know, I'm encouraged by what I see in town and the mood. I think we're more diversified.
Still, the signs are ominous. The powerful U.S. lumber lobby has set the stage for stiff penalties on Canadian wood this spring. And with more than 145,000 forestry jobs in BC alone, many of them will be at risk. Chris Brown, CBC News in Mackenzie, BC.
Air Canada was hit with a major computer outage this morning, causing travel problems right across the country. The software glitch knocked out computerized check-ins, forcing long lines at some airports. The airline's online reservations were also affected. Several Air Canada flights were delayed and canceled. And dozens of commuters were forced to scramble off a burning city bus in Ottawa this morning. The double-decker bus burst into flames shortly after the driver pulled over to do a maintenance check. Everyone got off the bus safely. A small Newfoundland community of 700 people is in shock tonight after 3 buildings, all pillars of their community, were badly damaged by fires. And police believe they were deliberately set. It happened early this morning in Milltown Head of Bay d'Espoir on Newfoundland's south coast. A school, a town hall, and an RCMP detachment were targeted. The CBC's Chris Ensing has the details.
Firefighters from 5 departments did what they could, but it was too late. The small town school almost entirely destroyed, and what's left standing may not be worth keeping.
The school is gone. That's going to have to be totally redo.
Firefighters believe the string of fires started here at the school. The town hall just up the road was next. Finally, the RCMP detachment. Each essential building now just left gutted by the flames.
Do you have anything you'd like to say?
48-year-old Donald Craig McKite from a nearby community was charged this afternoon. There's no official word on a possible motive, but the fire chief put a charitable face on what most people here must be thinking.
Well, first of all, I feel sad for the individual. I know that for somebody to have to go through something like this, there must be something terrible going through their mind. And I guess hopefully that will be taken care of.
For families like the Manuels, the school was central. Both parents work there, and it's the only place for kids to get together.
No, I'm not too happy. It's a big part of the community, really, the school. It's where we go to play basketball and play different sports, go to learn, socialize with our friends.
Student Amber Hickman saw her school burning and did what she could to help.
And well, delivering coffee was just for the firemen, to keep them awake and happy, just whatever you can do to help out.
No one was hurt, but the timing was especially cruel. This town was just recovering from devastating floods in October, just returning to normal. Only to watch all that progress burn away. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Milltown, Newfoundland.
In Nigeria, an Air Force mission went terribly wrong today. A bomb meant for Boko Haram extremists landed on a refugee camp.
It took place in a very densely populated area. It killed 50 people.
Doctors Without Borders says about 200 people were wounded. Almost all the victims were refugees and aid workers. As the memorial grows for the victims of the New Year's Eve nightclub attack in Istanbul, the city's governor says the suspected gunman captured yesterday has confessed. He's said to be an Uzbek national who trained in Afghanistan. Authorities say his fingerprints match the ones at the scene. And the search for flight MH370 has ended. Malaysia, China, and Australia spent nearly 3 years and $200 million scouring the Indian Ocean. The Malaysia Airlines plane disappeared in 2014 en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, with 239 people on board. Straight ahead, white Americans have loud new champions. One of the most prominent says Donald Trump made all the difference.
The alt-right is about identity, and Donald Trump's movement, whether Kellyanne Conway wants to admit it or not, was fundamentally about identity, and it was about identity for white people.
Last November, Richard Spencer was suddenly notorious for praising the president-elect with what looked like a Nazi salute and a cry of "Hail Trump." The jarring image was frightening to many, seeming proof that by tapping a vein of white pride, Donald Trump had given new license to open, unashamed racism. Tonight, Paul Hunter looks into the movement some call the alt-right. Is it hatred by another name?
On the night that defied almost every expectation, when Donald Trump walked out onto that stage in New York as president-elect, Republicans cheered. The candidate who'd promised to build that wall, ban Muslims from entering America, and deport illegal immigrants had won. Among those thrilled by Trump's victory, Richard Spencer.
I didn't believe it. I was asking, did this actually happen? Even when it was declared by major networks. So it was a miracle. Trump reached people on the basis of identity, and no one had really tried that. And that is something new, and that's something great.
But with Donald Trump, something seemed to change.
You may not recognize Richard Spencer, but you might have heard about what he did 10 days after Trump was elected.
America was, until this past generation, a white country.
He gave a talk, not far from the White House, on the suddenly emboldened politics of racial identity in America, ultimately saluting the crowd this way.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
And the crowd saluted right back.
But yes, I raised a whiskey glass and I said, "Hail Trump, hail our people, hail victory." And yes, I was being provocative, of course. Whenever you're a part of an identity movement, you're always called these names. Oh, you're KKK, you're a Nazi, you're a Southern Confederate, you're what have you. And I think at some level, people just want to throw that back in the face of their enemies. And it's a big F you, to put it mildly. And that's what it was about.
Spencer leads a movement known as the alt-right, a euphemism, say many, for white nationalists. Some call it a mix of racism and populism. Born in Texas, Spencer began promoting the alt-right when, for a short while, he lived with a girlfriend in Canada.
I lived in Toronto. Your viewers might be shocked to learn that the alternativeright.com website was born in an apartment near Yonge Street in Toronto, Canada. Fun fact.
But it's in America right now that the alt-right sees opportunity. From Trump's campaign rallying cries on Muslims, Mexicans, and more, to his senior advisor, Steve Bannon, who once ran a website labeled xenophobic, racist, and anti-Semitic. From some of those who turned out at Trump rallies, to Trump's pick for Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, with a track record on civil rights so divisive, his opponents turned out in hoods last week to protest. Critics underline the alt-right likes what it sees.
The alt-right is about identity, and Donald Trump's movement, whether Kellyanne Conway wants to admit it or not, was fundamentally about identity, and it was about identity for white people.
White power! After Trump's win, race-based slogans and hateful graffiti seemed to pop up all over. It's as if Trump's win had emboldened countless, but it repulsed and frightened countless more.
Racist, sexist, anti-gay, Richard Spencer, go away!
Mid-December, outside an auditorium at Texas A&M University. The target of all the anger? The night's featured speaker, Richard Spencer. And you can bet, people here absolutely link Spencer and his views with their new president-elect.
The fact that Donald Trump can get elected shows that we have these dark currents of racism and hatred in our country, which should not be a surprise to anybody, but we have to stand up and fight against it.
This is my home!
As day turns to night, the demonstration grows.
It's his right to say what he wants,
but it's also our right to reject that type of message.
And anger against Spencer and the alt-right mounts.
What is your message here tonight?
Here it is.
Please no heckling, please no violence or anything. We have police here to take you out in case that does occur.
Inside, Spencer knows that for him, this isn't a friendly crowd. And he's got his comebacks ready.
That must mean you love me when you do that. Back to all y'all.
For him, none of that matters. Trump's win has given him a spotlight, and he uses it.
We conquered this continent. Whether it's nice to say that or not, we won. And we got to define what America means. We got to define what this continent means. America, at the end of the day, belongs to white men.
Fists raised in opposition underline, most in this room find that odious. It leads to flared tempers and, for example, this back and forth when Spencer's challenged by a man wearing a shirt that reads, "Beat the hell out of hate."
T-shirt, beat the hell out of hate. Yeah, you're not even willing to do that. That T-shirt is total bullshit. You're not even willing to go to the gym. Look how fat you are. You can't beat the hell out of anything, sir. People say I am based on hate.
I hope this is getting on tape.
I have utter
This
contempt.
is free speech, everybody.
I have utter contempt for losers like you, sir.
So you grew up here.
I grew up here in this neighborhood.
You're 14 years old.
I was 14.
And you're coming down this alley.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in this alley.
Christian Picciolini knows all about hate. After an encounter in this alley 30 years ago, Picciolini's life spiraled into racism and violence. He helped build the American neo-Nazi skinhead movement. That's him with a Nazi salute at Dachau. And here he is in his band, singing songs of white power. They named themselves the Final Solution.
See this? That means not welcome.
Aspects of Picciolini's youth were chronicled in the film American History X. Eventually, Picciolini chose another path, and he rejected all of that. He left the movement and formed the advocacy group Life After Hate. Nowadays, he counsels young people who are conflicted about race, hate, and tolerance.
And so when you see America now and you see what's happening with the alt-right, what goes through your mind?
Well, it's the same tactic. It's all about instilling fear for the unknown. It's all about blaming somebody else for the problems that we're experiencing. And let's face it, we do have problems. They have a right to be angry, but they're blaming the wrong people.
Picciolini sees danger in the rise of Richard Spencer and in the alt-right's efforts to mainstream white nationalism. Gone are the obvious tattoos and skinhead approach.
Monkeys. You think because she's black, because I'm black, we're monkeys? Is that?
That's a proven fact.
That's a proven fact?
Replaced, says Picciolini, with a friendlier face but familiar objectives.
He's trying to make this cool, this racism cool. And, you know, if you were to ask me what his beliefs are, and he may say he's alt-right and not a neo-Nazi, but I can tell you that based on his ideology, he is absolutely a neo-Nazi, because what Richard Spencer is doing today is what we did 28 years ago as very open neo-Nazis. The rhetoric is the same, the ideology is the same, the words are a little bit more massaged and more palatable.
And what does Donald Trump think of all this? As ever, it's hard to know. After his election on the show 60 Minutes, he was pushed to disavow those of his supporters who promote hate in his name.
I would say don't do it. That's terrible, because I'm going to bring this country together.
They're harassing Latinos, Muslims.
I am so saddened to hear that, and I say stop it. If it helps, I will say this, and I'll say it right to the camera, stop it.
When a president makes light of the fact or just turns to the camera and says, don't do that, instead of replying with a very thought out, positive response to really try and quell something that's happening in our country that could be disastrous, we have an issue.
And so in Donald Trump's America, the debate rages between those against the alt-right and those who support it, along with the president-elect.
I guess a lot of America is mad, and we feel what Donald Trump is saying. You know, we're kind of angry. We're ready to see somebody with just as much fire as we are, someone who's just as pissed off as us. And I think we see that in Donald Trump.
The goals that I can achieve, and we are achieving them, and I'm going to achieve them in my lifetime, is raising identity consciousness among white people in the United States and really around the world. Is Trump the answer? No. Is Trump the first step, hopefully, towards identity politics? Yes. And that's what got me so excited about it.
Emboldened by new leadership in a country where that excitement mixes with fury and a divide that's as old as America. Paul Hunter, CBC News, College Station, Texas.
Coming up, we are now just 3 days away from the inauguration of Donald Trump. With rehearsals underway, Adrian Arsenault tells us why these ceremonies are kind of like big weddings. So many things can go wrong. Plus, we launch Viewpoints, our new opinion feature. But first, let's check today's business numbers. The TSX fell 37 points, and the Canadian dollar gained 0.6 cents. In New York, the Dow fell 58 points. The price of oil rose by 11 cents a barrel. On Friday, Donald Trump will become the oldest person to be sworn into the Oval Office. Inauguration Day in the United States has a long history of firsts, surprises, and drama. A lot goes into the event behind the scenes to ensure the transfer of power between presidents goes smoothly. Adrienne Arsenault walks us through the good, bad, and the must-dos of the big day.
Technically, constitutionally, only one thing really has to happen on Inauguration Day: the administering of the 35-word oath of office as close to noon as possible.
I, Harry S. Truman, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That oath marks the transfer of power. It's so serious if a single word is out of place, it's not really valid. One of history's biggest inaugural flubs,
Barack H. Obama.
2009, when the Chief Justice mixed up some phrases.
Faithfully, the office of President of the United States.
President of the United States, faithfully.
It was mangled enough the next day President Obama had to retake the oath. Beyond that formality, all else about the day developed as a mix of tradition, carnival, and patriotism on parade. At times, it's been a little crazy. 1829, Andrew Jackson fancied himself a populist, the first outsider president. So he opened the White House to the people for a party. It was a bad idea. 20,000 drunkards crowded in. He escaped out a window. Thankfully, the day has evolved a bit since then. The real business begins after the outgoing and incoming first families have coffee together at the White House. It can be awkward. Then as they head to the Capitol, moving trucks swoop in. In just under 6 hours, the Obamas' possessions will be removed and the Trumps brought in. New carpets, couches, maybe a lick of paint. Nothing too extreme, there are rules. It is a dramatic, emotional transition, and it all happens in private. What the spectators will see is all show. Concert, parades, speeches, all intended to reflect American ideals and a bit of the president's character.
Mr. Carter was in a walking mood today.
In 1977, Jimmy Carter tossed aside the idea of a presidential convoy. He walked the entire 40 minutes from the Capitol to the White House. He wanted to stress the simplicity. Now, President Obama, like a few others, did get out and walk a bit, but no one ever accused his inauguration of being simple. It broke records for expense and attendance, more than 2 million people, the biggest event in Washington's history. Even though attendance is expected to be lower this year, Donald Trump's inauguration is set to be even pricier. Estimated cost, $200 million. Trump has raised nearly $90 million of that. That's almost double what Obama had raised. And that $90 million is supposed to go for the glitzy bits. Everything else, the security, the construction, will all be paid for by the taxpayer. Trump's theme for the day, of course, Make America Great Again. Initial ambitions, naturally huge. A parade in New York City, a helicopter ride from New York to Washington. The Secret Service didn't much like those plans. And then there are the celebrities. Many were invited. A long list have now said no thanks. You have to know presidents are really sensitive about inauguration imagery. Richard Nixon, for example, was worried about the pigeons. He didn't want them raining on his parade. Had the inaugural committee spray chemical in the trees to stop them from roosting, only the pigeons ate the chemical and it killed them. Pigeon carcasses all over the parade route. There are perception precautions being taken now too. See all those porta potties? They're owned by a company called Don's Johns. It seems the names have been taped over. Maybe the inaugural committee didn't want the cameras catching that. And that's the thing about inaugurations. They are said to be like the biggest of weddings. As much as you plan and prepare, you just never know what's going to happen. Adrienne Arsenault, CBC News, Washington.
CBC News will bring you every moment of Inauguration Day. There's special coverage on CBC News Network, CBC Television, and online starting at 10 a.m. Eastern on Friday. The National will be in Washington on Thursday and Friday night. Right now, get set for Viewpoints, a new feature on The National where you'll hear a variety of voices. Robin Urbach is an opinion columnist at cbcnews.ca. She kicks it off right after the break.
As 2017 gets underway, the Prime Minister's office should invest in a common sense whisperer. Someone from outside the Liberal bubble who could tap the Prime Minister on the shoulder before he praises a deceased dictator, or dines with billionaires, or secretly flies to an exotic private island and say, "Excuse me, sir, this might not look so good." That individual, whose cup shall be filled with coffee, not Kool-Aid, would carry the antidote to liberal entitlement culture, ready to administer whenever, say, a couple of the Prime Minister's aides bill over $200,000 in moving expenses. "Excuse me, sir, this might not look so good." That person surely would have been useful last year when Trudeau found himself at the homes of wealthy billionaires, events for which participants had to cough up $1,500 just to attend. Now, the PMO explained these cash for access events as venues where Justin Trudeau talked about the middle class, which is what I imagine most billionaires do when they have exclusive parties with important members of government who can decide the fate of their business ambitions. Yes, Mr. Trudeau, I would like to talk about Ottawa's approval of the Chinese bank I'm trying to open here, but before we do that, let me tell you about my cousin Carol, who's having some trouble paying her hydro bill. Sure, went just like that. A little common sense from outside the Liberal bubble might have also been useful at the end of the year when the Prime Minister was making his New Year's plans. First, the PMO would not disclose where Trudeau was, which is precisely what you want to do if you want to raise suspicion. And then it revealed he was at the private island of the Aga Khan in the Bahamas. Now, the Aga Khan and the Trudeau family are close personal friends, but Trudeau is also the Prime Minister of Canada, even when he's on vacation. And the Aga Khan is the head of a foundation that has received millions of dollars in federal money, and one that is registered to lobby the federal government. This doesn't look so good, Mr. Prime Minister. For a government that purports to be all about the middle class, Justin Trudeau seems to be spending an awful lot of time around billionaires. His team is trying to remedy that with a new Talking to Canadians tour in coffee shops and church basements across Canada, but a cup of coffee is no replacement for a little common sense. For that, Mr. Trudeau might need to look outside of his party. And when interviewing common sense whisperers, make sure to check applicants' cups for Kool-Aid. For The National, I'm Robin Erbach.
I'm Anna Maria Tremonti. Tomorrow on The Current, a group of U.S. Democrats is putting together a playbook to fight back against Donald Trump by borrowing political tactics from the Tea Party. That's on The Current, weekdays at 8:30 on CBC Radio 1.
Well, if you know the name Joey Bats, you may have been celebrating today. Baseball power hitter Jose Bautista has signed on for another season with the Toronto Blue Jays. Bautista was behind the now famous bat flip in 2015. After a long, drawn-out contract negotiation, the longtime Blue Jay has agreed to play at least one more season in Toronto, with the option for 2 more. The details of his contract have not been released, but baseball insiders say the 36-year-old will get paid more than $17.2 million. That's what he turned down last fall. The 2017 Canadian Screen Award nominees have been announced. CBC has 190 nods in all. The National is up for Best National Newscast. Wendy Mesley is nominated for Best Host or Interviewer in a News Program. And in the Best News or Information Program category, our face-to-face special with the Prime Minister got a nod. And many more of our colleagues and reporters have been recognized for their work across 7 categories. The awards will be handed out in March. That's The Nationalist Tuesday night. For news at any hour, you can always go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Peter Mansbridge. Thanks for watching.